Welcome to the Payments Trilogue, where three seasoned professionals discuss payments and more for Europe and beyond.
Hello, my name is Michael Salmony, and Javier and Ralph and I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Payments Trilogue. And this time we have as guest Matthias Hönisch, because we wanted to explore local schemes. It's one of the surprising things in increasing globalization that actually a lot of local schemes are doing very well. Some people find that rather surprising. And one of the most successful local schemes is the Girocard in Germany. So that is, again, surprising because the Germans typically like cash. So Matthias, over to you. Explain to us why local scheme is doing so well and how you managed to wean the Germans off cash.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and your wonderful show. So the explanation for this is quite easy, because business is still local. So when you ask a normal customer, be it in Paris, in Berlin, or in Madrid, he will of course say that more than 99% of his business is done locally. So in the neighborhood. So that's why you need local schemes. It's good that you did not say it's a national scheme, because there are no national schemes at all. Because by definition, every European scheme is a European scheme. And of course, you can accept, or you could accept, or you can offer as an acquirer our scheme in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, or wherever you like. So the second explanation is, of course, that we have really strong domestic rails, low fees, and of course, ubiquity wins. And we have a strong relation with the merchants. So probably it's good to talk about the construction principles of Girocard. Girocard is let's say, a kind of a non-profit scheme held by the four big banking associations here in Germany, namely the Deutsche Sparkassen- und Giroverband, the Bundesverband der Deutschen Volksbanken und Raiffeisenbanken, der Bundesverband Deutscher Banken, and der Bundesverband der öffentlichen Banken. Those four associations,
banks, the cooperative banks,
it's the savings banks, the private banks, the cooperative banks, and the public banks. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And they have no real business interest for themselves, but they have business interest for their associated banks and members. And that's a little bit different from MasterCard and Visa, because they have a very, very specific interest in making business for their own, and not so much for the merchants and for the banks, etc., etc. And in addition to this, we have, for instance, in our organization, in the Association of the Cooperative Banking Networks, we have some very strong retailer organizations like Edeka. For instance, the Edeka Bank is quite often sitting next to me and telling me what is good about Girocard and what's bad about Girocard. And so I have to listen very carefully to what Edeka is telling me, because it's a very interesting and nice and good member bank. Yeah. That's a little bit a part of an explanation. And there's, of course, there was this ruling of Bundeskartellamt in the year 2014. First of all, Girocard is regulated by the multilateral interchange fee. I think it was from 2014. And in addition to this, the Girocard system, or to be precise, the banks were forced to have a bilaterally negotiated fees with the merchants, which is quite interesting when you think about the network with 1,500 banks or so and trillions of merchants. How can it be? Is it German engineering, or is it magic, or what is it? And the answer is that we call it concentrators on the issuing side and on the acceptance side, and there are no negotiating prices. And to be honest, the prices went down a little bit, and with a lower price comes more acceptance. And for this purpose and for this reason, not for this pure purpose, but for this reason, of course, Girocard is very interesting for merchants and still very, very interesting for banks. I come to this later.
I mean, that's super good, Matthias. I think you've made some really good, really strong points why you're so successful. Well, one thing still puzzles me. I must admit, I don't use your Girocard.
Oh.
I only use credit cards because I want miles, I want chargeback, I don't want every single transaction on my account. I wanted to pay only in 30 days. I find a credit card so much better for the consumer. Why don't Germans use credit cards?
Well, there's a kind of an aversion of revolving credit, of using credit cards, because the Germans would like to have control about their funds. So I think we four on the call are not the average European, because I would guess that our income is a little bit higher than normal. So the normal income in Germany is, I would guess, 2,500 euro. And when you do your grocery shopping, etc., you have to have control. That's why the Germans love to pay with cash or with debit card, and not so much with revolving a credit card, because they like to have control.
Whereas Brits like to overspend and
exactly,
go to the pub and not worry about the bills. Yeah,
and in addition to this, accompanied in every checking account in Germany, there's a credit line, whereas in the US it's quite often not, because there's the credit on the credit card side, but not so much on the checking account.
Okay,
Matthias, sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead, Xavi.
Okay, I think it is related to the previous issue. In your opinion, how far is your local market, not your scheme, your whole local market, from being hit, impacted, damaged by the lack of European sovereignty in payments?
A good question. So I would answer it this way. So I'm not a fan of Girocard. So I came to the corporate banking sector in 2009, and at that time Girocard was still running for more than 10 years. But the existing or the pillars of Girocard were always European or local. With one exception, it's Imvico. That's all. But everything else, I would say, still today is European or local. Give an example. Our security evaluation is based on common criteria and not on PCI for various reasons. And our kernels are self-developed, and we are not relying on MasterCard, Visa, Discover, the pure kernel, etc., etc. Everything is more or less is European, and it's our own PI. So that's why we are that so important, and that's why we are so cost efficient. And this is something, of course, some forget. Sovereignty is not only a good warm feeling in the gut region, saying, "Oh, that's European and that's fine." It's a very strong business, of course. So because using infrastructure for MasterCard or Visa, I had some experiences when I worked for API or for other organizations, comes with a huge cost, with a huge price tag. The funny thing is that most of the banks they do not know how big the price tag really is, because it's quite a secret how much MasterCard or Visa are really charging you. That's why you have to know your numbers and do the math to know what really a MasterCard, Visa, Girocard, or whatever transaction costs you.
I fully agree with you. I call that cost of ignorance, if not cost of stupidity.
Exactly. So that's interesting enough. So the acceptance price or the interchange, so we call it in the Girocard system, it's not an interchange. We call it Händlerentgelt, which is quite the same, but not the same. They are lower than the interchange for a Mastercard debit or Visa debit or VPay transactions, but the cost associated are much, much, much lower, because Girocard is built in a way that it's very, very strong integrated into our banking systems, and that's why we do not have so much transmission cost, etc., etc. So it goes STP right into the processing center of the savings banks, the cooperative banks, etc.
Could I put my finger into, I guess, one of the weaker points of Girocard? So
Go ahead.
I think it was 2 years ago, you told the EHI Congress that the banks missed e-commerce already 20 years ago. And you actually personally, you unveiled Girocard Online back in 2016.
Correct.
As a new chapter. So it's 2026 now, and Girocard still has no native online capability. I mean, the in-app pilot only just started, but is it really worthwhile starting this now while the market has already rooted around it for 30 years?
Good point. Good question. So as you know, I founded 2006 with some other colleagues, GiroPay, not Girocard, 2006, and I work for PayPal, so I have some knowledge about e-commerce. But it's true that more than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, so there were some plans to start business, to start e-commerce business with Girocard. But I'm not the big ruler here in German banking industry committee, and my banks decided wisely to go with PayDirect, and they decided to create and to establish PayDirect as an other way of doing e-commerce business. But unfortunately, we failed, or they failed, or whatever. So. That's the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer is, to your surprise, probably, Girocard is already in the e-commerce, because when you see the Girocards on the savings bank side, you can do business in the e-commerce with Apple Pay. So Girocard is already in the e-commerce, but only on the savings bank side, because they have a contract with Apple.
But I think even if you're not a savings bank customer, because Apple was forced to open up the NFC interface, you can put the Girocard into the NFC in the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
And I've actually tried that, and I think it's awful. I mean, sorry to rain on the parade of all those who've put so much effort in forcing Apple to open up the NFC. But the end effect, at least the way I'm experiencing it, is you have to go through all sorts of contortions to put it into the iPhone, and then it ends up in a different place. It doesn't end up in the Apple Wallet. And then you have to find the configuration option in your wallet to turn off the Apple Wallet, for all your flights and all your Bahn cards and all your loyalty cards and all your credit cards disappear, and you only see the one electronic Girocard. And that, to me, is an experience that really wasn't worth the effort. Or am I missing something?
Yeah, you do. You do. So, what we are hearing from the customers, and my numbers are telling me a little bit a kind of a different story, because when Apple opened up with some kind of pressure from some companies, and we had in six weeks more cards in the iPhones than in 6 years in the Android world. So what tells me that? It tells me that our customers waited for the solution, and they're quite happy. So what I see, and that's the feedback of my banks, they are very happy with this solution, but it's of course not enough, because we have now only our Girocard, our debit card in the wallet, and by beginning of the summer we will see our credit cards in our banking wallet. And from a bank perspective, so I'm talking only about a bank perspective, and from a bank perspective, it's a good decision, because the rationale behind of not making Apple payment was not the that we were not able to pay the trillions of euro banks have to pay for Apple Pay. We did it from a position of strength, because we said it is not quite clever that we pay lots of money to a potential opponent, to a competitor, and which will make us life hard and on our interface. And that's why we had some very interesting conversation with DG Competition. And after 5 or 6 years, we had the DMA, which is quite nice. So, and I'm talking only about the bank perspective. From the customer perspective, I'll tell you later. And from an IT perspective, it's quite interesting that the other banks, they have at least two infrastructures. One infrastructure, HC, for the Android world, and the other one, the SE, the secure element infrastructure for the Apple world. And that costs an awful lot of money. And we have now the chance to get rid of one kind of infrastructure and only make processing over one infrastructure about the HC infrastructure. From a consumer perspective, and you, Michael, you are not a normal customer, of course,
Yes.
but many but of course it is not the customer, but we have 30 million customers, and everybody is different. But what we see is, of course, that the customers, they like to have the financial control within their banking app and not within Apple. Okay. They like to have the things sorted out. Tickets, flights, whatever, Apple Wallet, and everything what's about financial, like credit cards, debit cards, or whatever, in the banking app. So, and that's what our customers mostly, of course, not all of them, but mostly are reflecting and telling us that this was a good decision.
Okay, well refuted.
Matthias,
there's my Apple wallet. I don't want all that to disappear just to be replaced by one Girocard, right? But
and this is my solution within the banking app, and of course I have the Apple Wallet as well, but because I have I think it's quite the latest iPhone, and of course I have here in my wallet I have my other cards.
Okay, and you managed to switch over in reasonable time.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Because you have two action buttons, and you can, with one action button, you can start the banking app with your card, and with the other one you can start the Apple Wallet.
Yeah. Okay. So Matthias, what do you tell those crazy Germans that like or love to travel abroad and would like to use Girocard, say, when they come to the Balearic Islands, but they cannot use it? What are your plans for the future not to lose those customers?
First of all, we say in German, I'm not married with Girocard, because my banking association, we have around 26 or so, 27 million Girocards. We have around 7 million credit cards, and it's wonderful. So I'm within the MasterCard association, and I love my MasterCard organization, and probably a little bit more than Visa, but Visa is nice as well. And those cards are issued by our banks. So, and the customer is of course very, very important. When the customer likes to pay with MasterCard or Visa, he can do this. Fine. Everything is fine. But honestly, most of the customers, they do not care with which brand they are paying, because they like to have the cocktail or the salad in the grocery store, etc., etc. It's not so of so much importance that they pay with MasterCard, Visa, Discover, Amex, etc., etc. They like to pay something. Huh? And honestly, they don't like to pay. They like to have this cocktail in this wonderful bar in La Palma. No, that's it. And on the other side, there are a couple of dozens of terminals. I'm not sure about the number. It could be hundreds in Mallorca, for instance, where you can pay with Girocard for sure. Yes. For instance, we have many thousands terminals around Germany or in Europe, and not only in Europe but outside of Europe, where Girocard is accepted, which is fine. And what we do is, of course, we make it more easy than in the past. As we are all payment veterans, I might say this, we know quite well the history of Monet and ERPS. Those were quite good ideas, but those ideas came much too early. For the examples, ERPS, that was the European Alliance of Payment Schemes. The idea was good, but it was too early because the technical differences between Pago Bancomat in Italy, for instance, and Germany and the German Girocard scheme, they were so big. We had the different payment formats, etc. Everything was a little bit different, and there was a lot of disruption between the transactions. But now, as we are within the SEPA area, the payment is not a big deal anymore, and the technical standards are more or less the same. So that's why I'm very much engaged in standardization, for instance. And when you standardize all the payment flows from cards to terminal, from terminal to acquirer to issuer, etc., then it's more or less easy. It's not so easy, but it's easier than before. Than to have a Girocard acceptance in La Palma, in Mallorca. Why not?
There's actually the EuroPA, which has this lovely term of sort of roaming, right? Sort of like we use phone roaming. They talk about payment roaming. And I'm hearing about the CPACE standard, right, which the ECB is now forcing into all the merchant terminals, which will be an open kernel. Is that an opportunity for you to then sort of put in Girocard acceptance across Europe into all these merchant terminals?
Yeah, so I think there are two approaches. I will tell you about the CPACE. We pronounce it CPACE because CPACE stands for Common Payment Application Contactless Extension. And it's in the former times, it's now a European standard. Formerly, it was a German standard because it's used within the Girocard world. Because all of our cards, they have this CPACE standards. To be honest, most of the physical cards, they have we call it CPACE Plus because we have some German over-engineered pluses in there. But basically, it's CPACE standard. And we kind of, let's say, to be generous, we donated this kind of the standard to Europe. So we founded a consortium, and within this consortium, there are Card Bancaire, the French colleagues, the Belgian colleagues, the colleagues from Portugal, from Spain, from Bulgaria, and now from the ECB. And the good news is that our French colleagues and the Belgian colleagues, they are almost through the migration. I would guess that at least 2/3 of their cards and terminal are already equipped with CPACE.
Wow.
2/3. And what we see right now, because it happened in, I think, in April, end of April, my organization and Nexo and Berlin Group, we signed a declaration with the ECB for the usage of those three standards: CPACE, Nexo, and Berlin Group. And with that kind of standards, you have more or less the payment chain or the chain for our card transaction. That means that the technical standards are more or less harmonized, which is great news because because the rest you have to take care about is the acceptance side. The technical differences are almost gone. To be very, very general, huh? So there's always some bits and bytes you have to change, of course, security, blah blah blah. But generally speaking, it's much more easy than in the past.
I mean, that's very impressive. Now, of course, they have to do this, right? You've set the basis from the technical and the standardization, and it's being rolled out in some countries. but then they actually have to do it and sort of enable the Girocard facility and all those things. But that sounds. I mean, you've done a trick which the Dutch didn't manage. We used to have Gijs here, who always used to say the Dutch invented everything in payments, and so he offered ideal to the rest of Europe, and the rest of Europe didn't take it. Whereas the CPACE thing seems to really conquered Europe. So congratulations on that. Yeah.
Could I ask there, because well, you mentioned that the French and was it the Spanish or some have already 2/3 of the terminals working. But what's the situation in Germany there? Because I mean, as far as I understand it, CPACE is the best possible alternative, but it is not there. So it will need a lot of work and implementation, isn't it?
No, that's not 100% true. Because we in Germany, we have on the terminal side, we have CPACE Plus. And on the card side, the physical cards are CPACE Plus, meaning then we have some additional features like issuer update processing, which we will get rid of. So for new terminals, it's not necessary anymore to have the CPACE Plus kernel. It's sufficient to have CPACE plain vanilla terminals. And on the card side, I'm not sure about the numbers. Let's say we have 10 million virtual cards out there. All of the virtual cards are running on CPACE plain vanilla. No pluses anymore. So from an issue perspective, it may be worthwhile to have this kind of pluses to have more control, security, blah, 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 etc., etc. Yeah. But we in a way convinced our member banks to get rid of the pluses. In exchange, that's what we see within the ECPC board, which is responsible for CPACE. We see that lots of terminal vendors and vendors are coming from the Far East to Europe, and they like to offer their products for the European market, because CPACE is not only seen as a German for German market, because we are opening up the market, and it's not only about 100 million cards, it's about hundreds of million cards right now, which is great. So we have more competition, more service, which is great news.
That's terrific. Maybe going slightly up again in the sort of more on the strategic side. How do you see the future with Wero and with digital euro? Is Girocard going to be end up in a Wero wallet, or how do you see the world evolving?
Oh, that's a tricky question.
That's what we're here for.
So as I said, I'm not the owner of Girocard, but I work for this association, and my association and some of my member banks, or especially DZ Bank, is very much engaged within Wero. And I like the pioneers. I like those guys who try to do something new. So we really support DZ Bank and our member banks in establishing Wero. No irony, we fully support. But what sometimes is underestimated is you need lots of time, because most of the problems for the payment industry is solved. It was different as we started Girocard Pay in 2006, because the capability of paying online was very limited. Because in Germany there were basically no credit cards, and you couldn't pay basically with credit card online. That was quite easy 20 years ago, but now the market is almost it's gone. It's distributed right now, and it's very hard right now to gain market share. So it's a really tough business. And of course you can insert the Wero, the digital Girocard into a Wero wallet, but it stays on a transaction base, a Girocard transaction, because we have to distinguish between a Wero wallet and a Wero payment. So when you do this, you have a Girocard in your wallet, and when you pay somewhere, you pay with your wallet, but with Girocard. In the end, it's a Girocard transaction. That's it.
Okay, and digital euro? Let you off the hook.
There's a reason why I was not on these wonderful photos with Mr. Cipollone. So we are not the biggest fan. So, but we have to face the reality. The digital euro will come. That's for sure. And I cannot tell you so much, but I'm a fan of private business. So I'm a fan of Mastercard, Visa, Wero, Girocard, because it's private property and it's driven privately, and I like this idea. I don't like this idea that a state is doing business in the payment industry. I don't like the idea, and that's what we will see quite likely, because I see at least two points of influence, or two big problems. The one is the price setting for the digital euro, and I think Mr. Cipollone told us that the price will be a little bit higher than for the usual local schemes like Card Bancaire, Girocard, Bankkontakt, etc., which is fine, but it will be higher than the local schemes, but lower than the Mastercard and Visa and the international scheme, which is fine. But we will see when we get there. So what I've learned in doing this business for 30 years or so, that the position of the merchants is very strong, and the voice is very much heard in Brussels. And I don't like the idea that the local European schemes will disappear because of a wrong price setting. And in the end, we have only the digital euro and Mastercard and Visa. And I don't like the idea. And the second the second problem we see is it's not in the payment area, it's more in the banking area, because we are discussing about holding limits around 3,000 euros. So, and we don't like, as a bank, I'm changing my head right now, so I'm a banker right now. As a banker, I don't like the idea that the money will flow from our balance sheets into the balance sheet of the ECB. This will, I would say, in a way, harm our possibility and our capability to give loans, and I don't like the idea. So, Rolf.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I guess you're in very good company here with, say, digital euro skeptics and generally skeptical of public payment solutions. But you're getting pushed between a rock and a hard place, because yes, you have the digital euro coming on one side, you have Wero coming on the other side, and Wero isn't just coming as a wallet where you can put the Girocard in. It is coming mainly, I guess, as an account-to-account payment solution, and this whole account-to-account principle is what is sort of being seen as the foundation of European payment sovereignty, and has the future, it has the lower cost, it has the bigger potential going forward. So everyone expects cards sort of becoming legacy and overtaken by account to account slowly but surely. And so what's your view on that?
I have a little bit a different approach. When Brussels is talking about cards and the merchants, they talk about Mastercard and Visa. They do not talk so much about Girocard or Card Bancaire or whatever, because the costs associated with Girocard are very, very low. And Girocard itself, it's basically, to be very simple, it's an authorization system, full stop, nothing else. So we can decide as a scheme to do the payment flow as an SCT Inst. We can do this. So right now we do an SCC, so it's a derivative of SEPA direct debit. But we can decide to use the card only as an authentication tool. That's what it is today. and do the payment via an SCT inst. So that's my idea, or our idea, to do business in future with Girocard.
And that's account to account then, basically.
And that's account to account then. Yeah. So, but honestly, I think I like the idea of account to account, but it has to come with a real advantage for the merchants. So we made, in the time when there was a WGZ Bank, a WGZ Bank, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, we had a draft. We drafted a sketch how to transform Girocard into an A2A system. So the ideas are right on the desk there. We have to do it, but the problem is, of course, we talk to the big merchants, even merchants within our organization, and they saw no real advantage in this. When the merchants are talking in Brussels about the advantages of account to account, they are talking not because they do not like so much Girocard, because they like to get rid of MasterCard and Visa, or schemes who have high fees. So, and that's their remedy to get rid of the high cost card systems.
Very good. Matthias, I think we've really used your time very well. Thank you very much for giving us such robust responses to all our questions. It's always a joy to have a true expert like you on our podcast. Thank you so much. And thank you to me and to Ralph and to everybody watching. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Many thanks for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Looking forward to seeing you again next time.